You know, I think my dog lost weight so that she could walk. She was gaining weight, and it was hard for her to walk, and she was getting a little chubby. So she put herself on a diet. Yep. Early this morning, she was like, "Let's go for a walk. Let's go for a walk." And I'm like, "What? Is that why you wasn't eating? You was losing weight so you can walk?" So here we are, out here walking at the Rowlett Community Center. So another video that I watched last night, Keanu Reeves had posted a video. He has started him a channel. Shout out to Keanu Reeves, posting on YouTube, Keanu Reeves Philosophy. And he was talking about how success can corrupt you, right? Keanu Reeves is a person that most people will deem as successful. And he had gave an example of how, his success had changed the way that people seen him, and that he had went back to his old community before he was successful, to a cafe, and how people were treating him differently, right? And the way that they were treating him was definitely making him feel uncomfortable. Definitely made him feel uncomfortable. But then at the same time, he left and reflected as to why it made him feel uncomfortable. Why did success have a way of alienating himself from his past, and was changing him into was trying to change him from being his true self? And so the point of his video was that, being successful, of course, is what everybody wants. But a lot of people who gain success end up turning out to be a person that they never intended to be. And I thought that was pretty special. I did. Because, Keanu, even in his success, he has not, operated, in the same way that other people have. So when he made The Matrix, he went beyond from just being, popular, but to being famous and rich, right? And then when he was doing John Wick, that a lot of people were very interested in in him doing even, multiple sequels to John Wick. right? What I thought was interesting was how, he stated that, you know, riding his motorcycle is what makes him feel in the present. And he states that when he's riding his motorcycle, he has to be present because, you have to be aware of the traffic, you have to be aware of your balance, you have to be aware of, the road conditions. And I was like, well, that's nice. That's nice. At least he's found a technique. Uh, Also, he said that, um, he's suffering emotionally because he's lost the people that, he loves. And he's, I guess, still in the process of grieving that loss. Um, you kind of could hear it in his voice. Uh, so yeah. Now, what the tabloids would say about him is that even though he's, been grieving the loss of his child and his baby mama, uh, you know, and the reason why I say it like that is because I don't believe that he ever, maybe he married her. I'll have to look that up. Hold on. No, I said they were in a relationship. That's not marriage. And that the child that they were going to have ended up being stillborn. Then the tabloids also said, sorry, she's 19, so she's not going to run after nobody. Come on. He's also been known to help people out, you know, by being charitable. And, you know, and then they say that even with all of his fame, he doesn't want to be alienated from, living a regular life. So that hit me to the core, right? Because, when I was 5 years old and they had discovered that I was above average intelligence, and I knew, that this wasn't a coinky-dinky, a coincidence that, the principal, the vice principal, the teacher called in my parents to discuss my future, right? And at that time, I had said to myself, do I want to live that kind of life, right? Where I'm sure, making a difference, uh, being prodded, maybe, you know, doing something spectacular and miraculous, and, you know, but, you know, would I actually be living the life that I wanted to live? And my 5-year-old self said, mm-mm, you know, uh, now, on the other side of that coin, right, was being chastised, humiliated, stolen from, uh, belittled, as people would say, that if they could do what I could do, they wouldn't have taken the path that I had took, right? And I said, well, it's really not your choice. It is not your choice to make. Because, Keanu Reeves, he didn't talk about, the corruption. He didn't talk about the battles, that he had to face. He's never talked about that. And, that would be something that I would find to be interesting, because, we have a society that it doesn't matter what you get into, they feel like, you have to pay your dues. You get into college, they feel like you have to pay your dues of being hazed. You go into the job force, you have to pay your dues, as they swamp you and overwork you, you know. Um, so it did make me think about whether or not, I made the right choice. But I don't have any regrets about the choice that I made, because I think being normal, is a lot better than me positioning myself in such a way where I feel compelled to do whatever I have to do in order to maintain my status. Come on. Yeah, my dog, she lost a little weight. Now she can walk a little further. That's nice. Come on. We'll take a shortcut here. So yeah. Because I sort of felt like if something was meant for me, I wouldn't have to compromise my beliefs, in order for me to obtain it. Now, in the corporate world, you know, you had so many people who were saying that, hi, that you had to put in extra hours, unpaid, if you want a promotion. You had some nefarious men out there who claimed that, if you wanted to be promoted, you had to put out uh, and, please, give them some satisfaction. You know what I'm talking about. And then you had others that would say, you help me get a promotion, and then I'll help you also get a promotion. Or you can help me get a promotion, and I'll leave you my position to hold as your promotion. Okay? Now, these were all things that I had not expected, in the world of common people. Yet, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I never would have believed it. Like even in the warehouse where people will finagle schedules just so they could force, a contract worker to go home and give one of their favorite full-timers overtime. It's unbelievable to me, right? And if people out there are saying it's believable and that it's acceptable, then you're part of the problem, right? And when the shit hits the fan, don't pretend like you wasn't part of the problem, because you were part of the problem. You're the one that said that it's okay to do these things. Okay? So yeah, I'm out here walking. It's 95 degrees out, but we're cool as cucumbers in a jar. Going back to what I was saying, and I told them, I said, look, if I have to put in unpaid time, I don't feel like I'm qualified for the job, right? And then, yeah, public offender, he came through, right? He came through and he was talking about how you have so many people out here, struggling in their positions, right? And granted, like I said, A job should be challenging, but you shouldn't be struggling in your position, right? If you're struggling, you're miserable. That job is not for you, okay? And so then, some people will say, well, what if it has to do with politics? What if it has to do with, uh, the type of politics that are designing unfair treatment in the workplace? It comes to, if you can't change it, then you have to go and seek what's right for you. You can make efforts to try to change it, sure. And, you may get an honorable mention if you change something that wasn't working right. This way. Come on. You just stepping on your leash. Come on. Let's cut across. If we cut across here, you can save some steps. Come on. Come on. So yeah, and I've been saying it. I keep saying it. And then, come here. She's getting tired. Then you have some positions where, if the work is easy for you, they'll pile on the work. They'll make you work excessively. They'll make you work harder than everybody else that's in the same position. I know, I've been through it. Technically, they should be promoting you, but because they don't want to promote you, they just, burden you with, excessive work. Because, you can't finish the work early and sit around while other people are struggling to do their work, so they'll pile on more work. You're doing such a good job. Good job. Yeah, that dry dog food is making my dog fat. Full, yes, but it's sedating her. And the bag that she got now is specifically for senior dogs. And eating that food, she gained like a lot of weight. So what had become enjoyable and easy for Keanu Reeves, where he was able to, you know, to take from his salary to pay the salary of others, you know, is a beautiful thing. Not everybody's like that. Very, actually, you might as well say, you know, he's very unique in that aspect, period. And I want to tell you, that's one thing I do really like about him, right? And even with the success that he has, you know, he's affirming to himself over and over to be humble and grateful. Not to feel like, you know, he's better than everybody. So, on the outside, you know, Keanu Reeves is excellent, right? But then on the inside, you know, well, his first baby mama, or I don't know if it's his first or last or whatever it is, but his known baby mama, he never married, right? The girlfriend that TMZ says that he has now, you know, he hasn't married, you know, and I don't know if, you know, what would make a man feel like, you know, you can just take from a woman's life and not honor her with the love that she deserves, right? She deserves an honorable love. Where's that at? You know, and then of course, you know, my mind, you know, went to some downloads that, you know, he doesn't feel like he can have, you know, a woman because, you know, the entertainment business is a cruel place, that if he showed them that, you know, this was the love of his life, maybe they would get at him through the people he loves. And I was like, okay, why aren't you talking about that so people know what's really going on?